The rain had not started yet, that the sky over Southridge was heavy, like it was holding its breath before a storm. Inside our small two-bedroom house, my wife, Emily, poured herself a glass of red wine, her hand shaking just enough for me to notice later. She kept looking at the kitchen clock like it was counting down to something terrible. I did not know it then, but she had already decided my whole life was about to split in half. That night when I walked in from work, boots wet from the drizzle, I smelled lasagna in the oven and saw the table set nicer than usual. Emily was not in her worn sweatpants and hoodie like most weeknights. She wore a tight green top and makeup that looked like she had tried, but not for me exactly. "Wow," I said. "Date night?" She gave me this stiff smile. "Something like that," she said. We ate mostly in silence, and I kept wondering what was wrong because the air felt thick. Halfway through dinner, she put her fork down and looked straight at me. "We need to talk," she said. My shoulders tightened instinctively. Every husband knows that line never means anything good. She started talking about feeling invisible, not unloved, but undesired, and then she dropped it. She wanted to date other people for a short while without us getting divorced. I just stared at her and asked, "So you want permission to be unfaithful?" And she flinched at the word, like that was worse than what she was asking. She tried to dress it up in fancy language about freedom and doing this for herself. But to me it was simple. She wanted to step outside our marriage and still keep the house key. I did not yell, did not slam anything. I just felt something inside me harden. "I will move into the guest room tonight," I said. She asked if I was not going to talk it through, begged for some kind of debate, but I told her there was nothing left to discuss because the decision was already made. By her. That night I slept in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, feeling something break and something colder take its place. She thought she would feel free, but from what I could tell, she just lay awake in our bed, wrestling with her own thoughts. By the next morning, though, her guilt seemed replaced by excitement and the pep talks from her friend Michelle, who'd been pushing this try other men you will feel alive again nonsense for months. At work, Emily started dressing up more, soaking in every stare like it was proof she was still valuable. Not long after, a consultant named Eric sent her a text, "You looked radiant in the hallway this morning." Instead of brushing it off, she doubled down and flirting back, basically telling him she was dressing for him now. They moved from texts to drinks to motel rooms faster than most people decide what to have for lunch. She started sneaking around, changing passwords, taking long showers, and watching the door every time her phone buzzed, thinking I was too numb or too stupid to notice. I work with my hands for a living, but I pay attention to patterns and details. I saw the late nights, the lies that did not match, the sudden girls' outings that smelled more like smoke than perfume. Instead of shouting, I started documenting. I set up software, logs, and quiet tracking on shared devices that were legally in our household, saving screenshots, messages, and GPS records into a neat little folder. While she thought I was just tinkering in the garage to clear my head, I was building a clean record of everything she was doing. One afternoon, she came home early and caught me in the garage moving wires and gear into a box, and I could tell it made her uneasy, but she still told herself this was temporary and she was not destroying us. I looked at her and said quietly, "You already did," and that was the first honest thing between us in a long time. Later, when the time felt right, I left a folder on the home laptop labeled with her name, full of proof of her encounters. I made sure it was easy for her to find. Then I disappeared for a couple of days, staying somewhere else while I finished the legal side of what I had started. While I was gone, she found the folder and panicked, deleting it like that could erase what actually happened. Around that time, she received a letter from me at the house. "I will not stand in your way, but understand this: freedom is never free. Watch carefully now." The police later called her about my pickup truck, which had been dumped in a creek outside town, only to reassure her I was not missing and to let her know I was already moving our shared assets out of reach and filing for protection and divorce. At her job, someone leaked a short video clip of her in our marriage bed with Eric, just enough to remove all doubt about what she had been doing. It spread through her company's internal chat and then out onto social media, where strangers judged her without mercy. People reposted her messages and mocked her for cheating, and then crying about the consequences online. I did not comment or post anything myself. I let the evidence and her own choices do the work. Her friend Michelle was hit too, once the same silent investigation exposed her affairs and her husband started moving for custody. But my focus was on my own case. When Emily sat across from my lawyer, a tough woman named Taylor Ross, she was told very calmly that with the amount of proof we had, texts, timelines, hotel records, and more, she would walk away with no house, no car, and no spousal support. In court, I spoke only once and said, "My wife did not just cheat on me, she walked away from our marriage. She wanted freedom, and I gave it to her, but she also gave me clarity." The judge did not need much time. The documents spoke louder than any argument. After the ruling, Emily came back to what used to be our house and found the locks changed, her things packed in boxes on the porch, and a note from me taped on top. "You lit the match. I simply watched it burn. Welcome to the freedom you wanted." Her name became a warning label online, and every time she applied for a new job, people had already seen or heard what she had done. That was not something I pushed directly anymore. Karma had taken over, using the trail she and her lover left behind. She bounced from a motel room to her friend's couch, and then to cheap rentals, trying to outwalk the reputation that followed her. Interviewers would smile politely and then admit they had searched her name and spoken with past employers, and the conversation would end right there. She started going to talks about rebuilding your life after you wreck it yourself, sitting in the back row, soaking wet from the rain, listening to people talk about accountability and taking ownership instead of blaming everybody else. It finally started to sink in that nobody forced her into this. She had chosen every step. Eventually, she wrote me a letter. She said that my silence had hurt more than shouting ever could, because it forced her to face herself. She admitted she had mistaken attention for love, confused chaos with freedom, and that I did not actually destroy her. She did that on her own. I did not answer by mail. Weeks later, I showed up at a women's shelter construction site where I had been hired to help build an expansion. She happened to be there doing volunteer work as part of her court-ordered obligations, and we ran into each other in the parking lot on a gray, drizzling evening. "Hey, Emily," I said, like we were just old neighbors. She asked why I was there, and I told her, "I build things. They called me to help with the new wing." She thanked me for reading her letter and asked if I had stayed silent because I did not care. I told her the truth. I did not fight because if I had started, I might not have stopped, and I did not want to become something worse just to get even. She said I had already gotten even, and I answered, "I did not destroy you. I just let you face the mirror." Walking away that night, I realized what this whole mess had taught me. When a partner chooses betrayal, you cannot love them back into loyalty, but you can choose not to sink to their level. My advice to anyone going through something similar is simple. Document the truth, protect yourself legally and financially, do not lash out in rage, and let time and consequences do most of the talking. In the end, justice did not look like me screaming or breaking things. It looked like karma catching up with her while I focused on rebuilding my own life.